Okay, you've got a kick-ass product. You've done your keyword research deep dive. Now it's time to optimize your listing to make
$1 million.
Let's do this. I've built and led multiple seven-figure Amazon brands. Now, I'm setting out to share how I did it, with radically transparent and detailed weekly videos. Join the journey with me and break free. Welcome to Heist. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're an existing subscriber, welcome back. My name is Adam, and I like to do deep dive Amazon FBA content on how I built 7- and 8-figure businesses. The focus of the video today is going to be exclusively on listing optimization. How to identify the best way to incorporate words into your listing so you get organic ranking and ultimately sales on Amazon to build really successful products. The cornerstone of this video is going to be a lead into the video that we did previously on keyword research. So we're going to use that same data set that we did for the keyword deep dive and build that keyword set into a listing. So let's kind of dive into my computer. You'll see a reminder here from the keyword research example. I'll put a video here, link here, as well as a link in the description so you can watch that keyword video later. But if you remember, this is basically on the gardening tool bag product. So that's going to be the focus of this video today. So going back to the spreadsheet or the Google sheet that we set up for the keyword analysis, I'm just going to actually set up a new one here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this. I'm going to call this one listing optimization. And this will be the backdrop of everything that we do here today. If you want access to this spreadsheet similar to the keyword research, drop a comment below. As soon as we hit 50 comments, I will pin a comment at the top and make this Google Sheets accessible to anybody that wants it. There's going to be some SOPs that we'll document in this that'll be valuable down the road. We're going to do some cool formatting to help do some listing optimization within the actual spreadsheet where our keywords are. So there'll be a couple good nuggets that'll make this thing valuable to have in the future. But let's dive into this and kind of start with the fresh SOP here. So I'm just going to name this listing SOP. We can delete all this stuff here. So if you remember before, this was the keyword master list that we had from the gardening tool bag example. This was looking at all of the relevant keywords with a score of 3 or more, as well as looking at that alpha ASIN to get some additional keywords there. So we've got a pretty decent list here. Let's see how many we've got. There's 270 keywords that we identified through that analysis. We won't be able to squeeze all of those into the listing, but the goal of listing optimization is to really get as many of these keywords into our listing as possible. And we're going to prioritize those based on how relevant they are, because relevancy basically means that we think that we're going to actually be successful and have a place within that keyword search. The second that we want to try to prioritize for is going to be keyword volume. So we want to make sure that there is, you're not optimizing for words that have 120 monthly searches. You want to try to start with the highest relevant search volume and work our way down. The third thing we want to do is putting the keywords in the correct spot. There's going to be different credit that the Amazon algorithm is going to give your keyword depending on where it is in your listing. So if it's in the description or in someone's review, it's not going to get as much credit as the title because the title is seen as much more important. So we're going to go into all those things and I'll show you basically how I set up my listings to build 7-figure brands. So going back to the SOP for this listing optimization, the first step that we want to do is add rows within the keyword master list and create filter to sort master keyword list by volume. So we'll bounce back to this master keyword list tab. Let's first start by doing a data sort, create a filter. And we want to have the highest search volume terms at the top. So we've done that there. And then let's just go ahead and add a number of rows here. Done. So one thing that I like to do just to keep everything front of center, you can obviously go into tools like Helium 10's Scribbles, which lets you actually like punch in a bunch of keywords and then start working on your title and all those things. And it'll check off which keywords you've actually put into those various content areas that Amazon searches. However, because I like to use these spreadsheets and build them over time and reference them over time, I like to keep it all within the Google Sheets. So you can do it both ways. No way is right or wrong. I just prefer to keep it all in the spreadsheet. So we'll go through how I do that when I set up my own keyword optimized and listing optimized spreadsheets here. So what I like to do here is just kind of list all the areas that I'm going to optimize for and update with keywords. The first and most important is going to be the title. And I'm just going to put a note here, 200, because it's a maximum of 200 characters for most categories. Some go up to 250, so you'll want to know what product category you're in. But generally speaking, it's going to be 200 characters is going to be your limit. The next most relevant area to put in is the backend search terms, and that gives you 250 characters. So those two are relatively undisputed. If you speak to most people that understand the Amazon algorithm and have tested it, title is absolutely the most important area of your listing. So you're going to get the most organic juice and indexing juice for words that are put into your title. The next is typically the search terms, which is backend. Again, I'll show you all of this within Seller Central so you can see it. Beyond that, it's kind of up for interpretations. I like to do the bullets next. So you have 5 bullets within Amazon. And then you also have subject matter in the back end, and then description to how to describe your brand or describe your product. So I go from search term to bullets next. And again, there's 5 of them. Now you can put typically as many characters as you want in the bullets. I think the thing to keep in mind is that Amazon is only going to index 1,000 characters within all of your bullets. And some say, again, this is up for a little bit of dispute, but some say that you shouldn't go over 250 characters per bullet. So generally speaking, the first 4 bullets, I keep 250 characters and I don't go over. And then the last bullet, which I usually leave for things like warranties or 100% guarantee type things, that will be the 5th bullet, and that can kind of go as long as needed. So each of these first 4 bullets, I like to keep to 250 characters. And again, I like to just have that there as a reference just so we can see what our target is for character count. And I just put a little note in there that it doesn't rank past 1,000 characters. Then the next thing is there's 5 areas of subject matter, each of which has 50 characters each. And again, I'll get into how this looks on the back end of Amazon. But there's subject matter 1, which is 50. And then you have the description, and that's 2,000 characters. The important thing here is if you've got Amazon's brand registry, you're going to have A+ content that will show in place of the description. That said, because it still may index on the back end, even if you're using A+ content and the description won't even be seen by customers looking at your listing, I like to still go ahead and fill out the description as well, just in case there's some back-end indexing. But those are the areas here that we're going to want to take this master keyword list and get as many of these high relevant, high search volume terms as possible into this listing. And so we're just going to go through these one by one and go through some of the methodologies that I show here. But going back to SOP, add in optimization areas of the listing with character count. Okay, so coming back to the master keyword list, then I just want to add here a character count formula. And this is just len, and you're just going to count that. So as we start to fill in the title, the bullets, the subject matter, we'll be able to actually see how many characters we've accumulated and if we've gone over what the limit is, so we can kind of throttle it back and manage the character count limits that we have here. And there is going to be a process of elimination, right? Like we're going to want to put in more than our character limit has, so we're going to have to definitely prioritize which word makes the most sense given the character count. So one of the first things I like to do, and this is where you kind of match science with art. So the science is really trying to get as many keyword searches as humanly possible for relevant terms. The art part is to identify as a human being, knowing your product, knowing your category, really going to each one of these keywords and typing it into Amazon and seeing what it looks like and seeing what products are there, so that you can determine which ones you should really focus on from a relevancy standpoint. We have some relevancy score here from our keyword deep dive, but there is a human element where you're going to need to understand where does your offer best compete looking through these keywords. So we are, again, optimizing for a gardening bag that will have tools in it. So there's going to be words in here that are high search volume that may not be super relevant. So we may not necessarily prioritize those as super relevant. And then there's other ones that may be a slightly less search volume, but are a very clean description of what our product is. So the first step, kind of going back to the SOP again, that I like to do is to identify the highest relevance HR words greater than 1,000 or 500 searches per month. So depending on your category, sometimes you may not have a ton of super high volume words, so you might want to look at anything over 500 searches. If you've got a ton of really high volume search terms, you're going to want to look at those greater than 1,000 searches a month. So if I kind of scan down here, keeping in mind, again, I'm selling a gardening tool bag that has tools with it. Gardening I don't need to worry about because it's going to be covered. I do have a tool set as part of my thing, so I will put this as high relevance. And I just like to highlight these here so we can see. I'm selling gardening tools, but not explicitly gardening tools, so I'm going to leave that one alone. A lot of women will search for this, so I'm going to tag this one as high relevance. Gardening tool storage, I think, is relevant. And then these three are definitely relevant here. Gardening tote could describe the product, gardening bag, gardening tool bag, all very relevant, right? Highlight those. Garden set, I think we could throw that one in there. Gardening bag. Garden caddy. So let's start there. So again, you'll know your product better than anybody, so you're going to have a deep understanding of this once you look at your own keywords. And I'm not necessarily a gardening expert, but I'm going to pretend to be one for this video. Step number one is to identify the most relevant terms greater than either 500 or 1,000 monthly searches. What we're going to do with those that are high relevant and have high volume is we're going to try to put those in the title. Again, remember that the Amazon algorithm is going to give you a ton of credit for any keywords you put within that 10 or 200 character space in the title. So let's start optimizing and throwing these words in here. Now, one thing I like to do just to see, similar to how Scribbles checks off how many keywords are kind of optimized or kind of selected in the listing, I like to build that into the spreadsheet here again, so I can do this all within the spreadsheet. So I'm just going to add a quick conditional format to this title here, so that it's going to color code any of the words that I've actually included in the title, so I can see which ones I've checked off that I'm targeting and which ones have not yet been included in the title. So coming to this first word, I'm going to come into conditional formatting. And I'm going to do a color based on a formula. So for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to type in all the formulas here. I'm going to optimize all this behind the scenes, not recorded on video. But if you want access to this spreadsheet, which is going to have, again, the SOP, all these conditional formats, all this optimization stuff within the actual Google Sheet, so you don't have to use an external software. Once this video gets to 50 comments or more, I'm going to pin a comment with a link so you can have access to this Google Sheets. So coming back to the SOP for listing optimization, I'm just going to add in here, add conditional formatting to see which master keywords have been checked off in the listing. Again, you don't need to do this. I've done all this formula behind the scenes, but I just want to add it in there, as that's a step that I like to do. So anything that we type in the title that's actually part of this list in the conditional formatting, we basically color coded that as bright green, so we'll be able to see exactly down below which ones we've optimized for. So let's get into start creating our title. Again, the goal with the title is to get as many of these high relevant, high search volume terms as possible, because every character we put in the title matters more than anywhere else in the listing that we're going to optimize. So you want to take a ton of time with sculpting a title, and it may take you honestly hours to do a title. We're going to do it quick, nitty gritty here, but you want to be very, very thoughtful about this and kind of come into it with a fresh headspace, because it's really important to get the title right. The first thing I like to include here, even though it doesn't get optimized for organic search terms a ton, is your brand name. I just think it helps to differentiate when you've got a brand name in the front of the title. From a user standpoint, scrolling down, seeing a lot of crazy names or no names at all, I think it is really powerful to have your brand name, especially if it's relevant to the category you're in. So I will burn some characters just to use the brand name. The second thing I should kind of talk about here philosophically is there's kind of two different approaches to titles. Some people believe that you want to have a very readable, very short, very succinct, very like benefits or sales oriented title so that you can improve your conversion rate. That's not me. Even though it's kind of weird and it doesn't seem like how you do it as a normal human being, I keyword stuff the title. You want to definitely make it so it's not super weird, but at the same time, if you've got a good brand, you've got really clean photos, let that sell the value of your product and the value of your brand. The title, most people aren't going to read. If they're on a mobile device, they're probably not going to see 70% of the keywords you even put in there. So I use this because it's so important for ranking and indexing. I keyword stuff titles and don't mind taking a bit of a conversion hit, because it's going to help so much in terms of getting your product seen by way more customers. And then you use your overall offer, your differentiation, your photos, your brand to help sell and convert the product. So the first thing I would like to do is to find one of the higher relevant, best descriptors of your product that has the most search volume. So the first term, sometimes you'll get lucky and that is a highly searched term as well, but oftentimes it may not be the highest search volume term that you put next in your title. So the one I actually like here, because it's a bag primarily and then it has tool sets as part of it, I do like the idea of choosing one of these garden bag or garden tool bag things. So I think the garden tool bag is probably one of the best descriptors of what the product is. Plus it has decent search volume. So that's actually going to be the first one that I'm going to select here, is garden tool bag. So I'm just going to go garden tool bag. Capitalizing the first letter of each one, it just makes it a little bit easier to read and pop off. And again, you'll kind of see here, boom, because I've got garden tool, it's hitting off one that's 13,000, wasn't even on my hit list. Garden tool bag is the one that I actually typed in. So this is what that conditional formatting does, very similar to Scribbles, is it's going to let me see exactly what I'm checking off my list. And then I just want to kind of go through here and start to find the highest volume and highest relevant terms and try to make it as readable as possible for somebody that's checking out the listing. We'll just come in here and go comma, gardening tool set, which is a 55,000 search term. And then I just might do here garden tools set for women. Boom, and then you see here we've checked off a bunch more in green and kind of knocked some more off the list. Another thing to keep in mind when you're selecting keywords, if it's a plural and a singular, Amazon's going to count that as a single keyword. So for example, if it said garden tools and garden tool, as far as Amazon's concerned, that's one word. So you don't need to do singulars and plurals in your listing. That said, I'm a fan of doing exact match terms, especially for these hyper relevant high search volume terms. So if there's a word in the middle, I want to include that. I want to have it exactly as Amazon's counting it from an exact manual standpoint. So let's just kind of go through here and add some more. Again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. It's more about the methodology than anything, but we'll throw a couple more in here. Garden tool storage. Garden tote. Garden bag. Garden set. Gardening bag. 151. Garden caddy. And then let's round it out with something that's a little bit more of a descriptor, which is the gardening set for women, I think it was. Yeah, gardening tool set for women. Boom. So we're at 196. Again, I would have kind of fine-tuned this so I get as close to 200 as possible. Oftentimes I'll get to like 198 plus, so you kind of want to massage some. You might have to cancel one out and add one back in just to get your numbers right. But this is the gist of it, guys. So you want to have brand name, hyper-relevant, best descriptive word next, and then just start rifling off as many high-relevant, high-search terms as you can. Try to make it as readable as possible and kind of separate with some of those vertical lines, add commas in between, use exact manual instead of kind of spaced out broad or phrase terms. And then it's just a game of trying to massage as many as you can in as readable as fashion as possible. But don't worry too much about being perfect with it. I would much rather err on keyword stuffing than I would to make it perfectly readable, simply because not many people are going to impact their buying decision a whole heck of a lot based on your title, especially the back half of your title, which they may not even read. So if we kind of scroll down here, again with this conditional formatting, you can see all the ones that we've knocked off. And we've got a number of the high relevant ones. So let's go on to search terms in the criteria there. So going back to the SOP, the next thing that I like to do here is to look at all relevant terms greater than 500 or 1,000 searches per month, and fit as many as possible into search terms. Okay. In search terms here, I've conditionally formatted to be yellow, so I'm just going to update this here, so we'll see any of them here. But I'm just going to literally come in here, copy, paste. And this is much more a game of just high volume stuff. The critical thing with backend search terms is you don't want to repeat the same term multiple times. Amazon will actually suppress your listing in some cases if you are doing doing the same word twice. So say this garden tool set. If I had garden tool set and then garden tool set again in the backend search terms, it's possible that Amazon may suppress your listing. So you definitely don't want to repeat terms here in the backend. In this line, let's just go down to gardening gifts. So this isn't too crazy. Again, you want to make sure that you're actually relevant for these words. So even if it's high search term and it kind of showed up from our keyword analysis and you just don't think you're going to succeed on that, I wouldn't necessarily include it here. But this is a little bit less art, and it's really just plugging in as many as you can here. Remember, with backend search terms, customers aren't going to see this. So this is just much more about Amazon's algorithm, or literally a computer reading things behind the scenes. So you can kind of put in Spanish terms in here if you've got high relevance ones. If there's some misspellings that have a significant amount of search volume, you're definitely going to want to include these here because customers won't see it. So it's a good spot to put that. And let's see what our character count is. So I forgot to carry my formula down. Let's just do that here. 113. We're just going to keep working this down the list. So I'm going to fast forward here through the video, and I'm just going to keep on adding these ones in here until we get as close to 250. We'll come back here right in a second. So not only do we show how to do 7-figure listing optimization on this channel, I've also invented a time machine, fast forwarded through, and you can kind of see all the search terms that we plugged in over the last couple minutes that you didn't see recorded. We got up to 242 characters of the 250, so not bad. And this is basically looking here at all the conditional formatting. You can see all of the keyword terms that we have in our title and in our backend search terms. This particular product category has roughly 411,000 monthly searches that we are targeting for to be at the elite level of competitors in the category. So if I just wanted to just do a quick status update during the process of this optimization and add these all up. So I've got 337,000 monthly search term keywords that I've optimized so far. Obviously a couple more of these here that we could plug in. So we're already like the majority of the way there. Now it's about kind of fine tuning some things, going a little bit further down past super high search volume terms and starting to optimize the rest of your listing. The next area I like to focus on, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time typing it out here, is going to be the bullets. The bullets gets a decent amount of credit for optimization, but my goal isn't necessarily keyword plugging when it comes to bullets. The bullets are where I really like to sell. So this is talking about the advantages of the product, overcoming fears that customers searching for this product may have, plugging in some brand terms, and I'll show you a trick to do that here later on so you can get some benefit of some competitive big brand terms as well. But this is much more about the art of selling and copywriting for the product. Again, I'm not going to do every single bullet here, but that's the goal of the bullet points. And then wherever possible, obviously, weave in keywords and kind of go through here, especially the ones that we haven't actually checked off yet, and see if we can weave some of those additional keywords into the bullets. But the main goal is to sell. So the first bullet, I'm just going to kind of put in notes here, deliver best value prop / advantage. So hit them where it counts. They may only read one bullet if they read any bullets at all. So you really want to kind of be poignant with that first bullet point. I like to capitalize a key part of the first part of the bullet so it's easy to read, then go into actually delivering the sales copy. The second bullet, just making some notes here. Hook them with what makes you great. This could be product, this could be brand. So sell them on why. Of these 30 other people that I can see on the first page, why am I selecting you and your product? That's bullet number 2. Bullet number 3, I like to address fears. This is where you can look at other competitive ASINs in the category, look through their reviews, especially the less than 3-star reviews, and see what are the issues that customers are having with other competitive products. What you can do here, especially if your product overcomes those, is call them out and then also address how your product meets and overcomes those fears or issues. This is a critical way for you to sell deficiencies in other products and let customers know why your product can overcome them. And then the fourth bullet is where I like to weave in, where possible, key brand terms. And there's a way to do this within Amazon's terms of service that you're actually not violating things. So going back over to Amazon here, I'm just going to try to find a name brand. I don't really know garden tools, but let's just type in garden tools. See if we can find any name brands here. Don't see. Okay, so Fiskars seems like it's a brand. Let's just see if there's some terms for Fiskars. Fiskars garden tools. Let's do that. Whoops. Let's just see what the search volume is for this. Okay, so you see here at the top, there's almost 6,000 searches a month for Fisker garden tools, or the Fisker brand. So this is a trick I like to do, and most categories have some branded players. You can't come into your title and put Apple iPhone as an example, right? You are going to get your listing suppressed. You're going to get an IP violation. You also can't put it in the backend terms. Amazon Smart, they're looking at brand registered terms. If those exist in your backend terms, you're going to get dinged. Your listing is going to get suspended or suppressed, and you're going to have issues with your account, especially if you do it all the time. What Amazon does let you do, though, is if your product is compatible with something else, you can say some very specific words that is okay with Amazon's terms of service. So as an example, let's say you had a phone case, and the phone case was good for an iPhone 11X. I think that's what my phone is, or 10X, whatever it is. You could say phone case compatible with, or phone case for Apple iPhone 10. And that's totally legit. Amazon wants customers to understand what compatible products your product may be associated with, even if it's a brand term. So something that I don't see a lot of people do, but it's a very clever little kind of strategy to play in that gray area, is to actually use branded terms in your actual listing, but following terms of service. So in this case, we're doing a gardening bag, right? And it's got some tools that we're going to include with it. But guess what? You can put other garden tools that aren't necessarily our brand that are part of our kit in the garden bag. That is an opportunity for us to ride the coattails of other branded terms in the category. So we're going to use this Fisker's kind of example. I'm just going to copy Fisker's because I probably won't remember how to spell it. So what I like to do in my fourth bullet is save a little bit of room so I can talk about compatibility. I can talk about how to use the product, but I can also weave in some brand terms. So we might want to just say, like, let's say that our sales point here was broad compatibility. Works with other popular tools, other popular gardening tools, made for is one way that you can, Fisker's. We could have in here Martha Stewart. You name whatever the brands are, right? You can throw as many in here as possible, but if you say it works with or made for, before that, you're going to be compliant with terms of service, and you can include the brand terms. So I pick up a ton of volume that is very hard to index and rank for because it's very difficult to put branded terms anywhere else. But if you use those specific terms, that's kind of a little hack, and I like to do that in the bullets typically is where I like to do that. So then the last bullet, which isn't going to index because we would have already had in the first 4 bullets that 1,000 character limit that Amazon's going to index for. So since this doesn't really matter, you don't need to worry a whole lot about keyword terms, but talk about your brand promise, right? So if you've got a warranty, if you stand behind your product with some kind of a guarantee, let's spell that out in terms of the brand promise that you're going to make to customers in that 5th bullet. So with that, you basically have all of your bullets sorted out. Very similar to what we did with search terms. We're going to come down for subject matter and literally just kind of go through the highest volume possible terms and plug those into each row within the subject matter. You're only allowed 50 each, so it's not a ton of space. So oftentimes it's going to be hard to get to that 50 each time, but you're just going to want to go row by row and plug in as many search terms as possible. Again, this is in the back end of Amazon. A customer is not going to see this. So if you want to throw Spanish terms, if you want to throw misspellings, or terms that just seem a little bit like odd, you can definitely do those in the back end. So just a color code here, when you optimize any key terms in the bullet, the way that we've done conditional formatting here, we made this green. Oops, made this green. For the subject matter, anytime we use subject matter, that's going to come in as orange with this conditional formatting. And then the description, which is 2,000 characters, so you can kind of tell a novel here. This is, again, I'll throw keywords in here. It's not critical necessarily, but I want to, again, talk about why the brand is cool, why this product suits their needs. But if you've got A+ content, this isn't going to be seen by customers, or it's very rare that it's going to be seen by customers. It's going to be mainly back-end stuff on Amazon, but still fill it out because it will index. It's not going to give you a ton of juice, but it is going to give some benefit. So that's going to actually be read. So any keywords that you put in the description description using the spreadsheet, it's going to show up as red with the conditional formatting that we've got. So in the interest of time, we didn't go through every single step and type everything out, but I think you get the gist of the overarching strategy on what listing optimization can do. Again, the end game is to target as many monthly searches as possible and making those searches as relevant as possible for your offer to win and compete. When you do that effectively, you end up indexing for those terms. When you get sales on those terms, you start to rank for them, and slowly but surely over time, you build up and get large amounts of organic ranking on a massive amount of monthly searches. What that lets you do is build up products that do $10, $20, $30, $50,000 and beyond per month, and then you just keep on scaling, growing, and launching more. So if you like this video, guys, and you got any value out of it and you haven't subscribed yet, would love you to be part of the community. Please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell, and you'll get notified for the weekly videos that we drop. And if you want access to this spreadsheet, again, comment whether you've got a question, you want to say what value you got out of it, you want to engage in dialogue. I'll be in the comments engaging with the community. As soon as we hit 50 comments or more on this video, we will unlock this spreadsheet. You're going to get the SOPs, you're going to get the strategies, you're going to get all of the custom formulas and approaches that we use to make this all possible within Google Sheets. But guys, it's been awesome having you here. Stick around next week. We will drop another value bomb, a value pack video. Hope to have you here. Thanks for being here for this one. Cheers.